Hello and welcome back to Xanthus Gaming. Today we're going to be covering a brand new build in the game enabled by several new skills that were just brought up in this most recent patch, as well as a rebalance and rework of a mechanic. The gameplay that you're seeing in the background is time-lapse at 2 times speed, so it might be a little hard to follow, but hopefully you guys get the idea. Total video is about 30 minutes, so this video should be about 15. After we finish going through the build guide, we'll take off the graphical overlays and just let the rest of the build play out. Hopefully you guys like this format. Please let me know if this works for you, or if you prefer me to cut it down more. I'm down to do it however you guys want. So let's go ahead and get into this build. With this build, you can go quite deep into the endless mode. It's actually really a beast of a build. I feel like honestly they might rebalance the exposed debuff again, because it's honestly a bit too powerful. It makes hard-hitting abilities just absolutely insane. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I usually struggle to get all the way through Endless 4, and I got partially through Endless 6 with this build. So I think that either they want us to push higher, or they might have overdone it with this debuff. But, you know, try it out while it's still there. Hopefully you guys have fun with it. Alright, let's go ahead and get into how the build works. The first rune that we are going to be taking is going to be the Reckless rune. The main reason we take this, as we've talked about before, is for every 2 HP that you gain 1 HP or 1% damage increase as you lose that HP. You start off with 150 HP. If you drop down to 1, you know, that's a 75% damage increase. So pretty good. In this particular run that you guys are watching right now, I ended up with about, I think it was like 585 HP. At one point, I got hit really hard and brought down to like 45 or 50 HP. This means while I was running around with that low HP total, which was for quite a while, I had a 270% damage multiplier. It's just absolutely insane. The second rune that you should take is going to be the Generalist rune. This is a massive damage boost for your character. We've talked about it before, but Chromatic Bolt gives you a bunch of extra damage. It has 13 damage types on it, which means at 5% per damage type, you're getting a 65% damage boost. So very, very solid rune. We are also going to be taking Executioner with this build. I think Executioner could definitely be substituted out for Crit Mastery as well. In fact, Crit Mastery might scale better into the high levels of Endless stage. However, Reaper gives you some really good consistent strength very early on, and I think it's a very valuable rune. Honestly, you could run this either way, Crit Mastery or Reaper, whichever makes most sense to you. If you do run Crit Mastery, obviously, with the stat priorities, you're going to bump it up a few notches, but yeah. We also take Multicast Mastery. This makes it so that when we get a multicast, it's more likely to multicast in a bigger string. This is particularly important with this build because Arcane Base hits like a truck, and being able to multicast it and then multiply the damage with Expose just equals some truly astounding numbers. The last rune that we're going to take is Weapon Expert. This actually gives us Arcane Mace to start, which is one of our primary carry builds for this, or primary carry spells for this build. Like, you can't ask for a stronger start, honestly. So very, very worth it. Make sure you take Secret Weapon. Don't take Dash Mastery, take Secret Weapon. It's important. It makes it a lot easier to get off the ground running, and depending on how long it takes you to clear each set of bosses determines how tough they are. So the quicker you clear, the further into Endless you can get. Alright, let's go ahead and have a look at the skills next. I apologize for not having the normal skill format for Radiant Light and Arcane Mace, but the wiki hasn't been updated yet with that data, so we'll just go ahead and look at what each skill does and kind of why we take them. So the crux of this build is more or less twofold. First, you're working on keeping yourself alive with exorcism. And then second, you're doing anything you possibly can to make Arcane Mace hit harder. That's pretty much it. That's the whole thing. Everything in the build is either to keep you alive, which is exorcism, to hit hard, which is Arcane Mace, or to make Arcane Mace hit harder, which is literally everything else. So, Chromatic Bolt, of course, gives us that 65% damage multiplier. Arcane Sparks applies just tons and tons of exposed everywhere around the map. Once you get good cooldown reduction and multicast on it, those balls will be everywhere. Arcane Disc provides us with a directional piercing version of exposed so that we can specifically target bosses with it. And then Radiant Light is the same kind of thing as a frontal conal attack that we can use to specifically shower bosses with extra stacks of exposed. And Arcane Mace will just drop the hammer down and blow them up. That's pretty much the build. Let's take a look at stat priorities next before we wrap up with the gameplay demo to finish out the video. Stat priorities on this one are a little bit different than normal. I tried to reformat this so it's a little bit more helpful. First of all, area of effect on everything is super duper 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 crazy important. In particular, you want to get your Arcane Mace as big as possible so it covers pretty much the entire screen, but to be honest, area of effect is great on everything because you can make those Arcane Sparks huge so that they hit more things for each one, and it kind of scales up the number of stacks you can apply. The second priority is damage on Arcane Mace. You could maybe even consider it top priority. It's a little bit hard to say which one's more important, the area or the damage, but ultimately you don't need damage on anything else. You just need damage on Arcane Mace. Stacking damage on your Exorcism or your Blinding Light or your Arcane Sparks or any of the others doesn't really do a whole lot. But as much damage as you can possibly get on Arcane Mace is actually super important. That said, getting multicast on everything, especially the supporting skills like Arcane Sparks, well, really any of these supporting skills is really important because it allows you to apply even more debuffs. In particular, getting lots of multicast for Exorcism is going to allow you to stay alive a lot longer and is actually super duper important. As such, cooldown reduction follows the same kind of vein of thought. The more cooldown reduction you have, the more stacks you're going to apply, or the more cooldown reduction you have, the more healing you're going to do, the more consistent the healing, the longer you can stay alive. Similarly, getting max HP is going to scale up your damage of everything, and more importantly, is going to give you that buffer room so that Exorcism can heal you back up. Once you get into Endless 4, 5, 6, things start hitting for 200, 300, 400 damage. At that point, if you can't take the initial hit, you can't heal back up from it. So it's important to have a pretty good buffer of HP. As far as movement speed goes, I would say anytime you see a blue or green movement speed, you should probably take it unless there's something that's a much bigger priority. The exception to that is at the very beginning of the run, you want to get a lot of movement speed relatively quickly. This particular character moves very slowly, and if you don't start getting movement speed before the first set of bosses, you're gonna probably die unless you've already found Exorcism. Last, and this is very different from before, is crit. Crit goes beyond 100 and scales beyond 100 now. So once you get up to 100% crit, obviously every attack's gonna crit, but once you get up to 105% crit, the first attack the attack will crit once and have a 5% chance of it critting a second time. This concept of multi-critting along with multi-hitting means that crit is going to massively amplify your damage if you can get it boosted a decent amount above 100%. So basically anytime you see crit, Anything green or above, I would definitely take it, unless you're competing for damage on Arcane Mace, in which case damage on Arcane Mace will probably win out unless it's a blue crit. So you want to also, of course, grab one of each debuff type, and if you see debuff synergies, grab those as well, just so that we can multiply our damage with Reaper even more. Hopefully that all made sense to you guys. It's been an incredibly long week, an incredibly long day, but I've had this footage recorded for 2 or 3 days and the graphics made for a day or two, and it's been driving me crazy not making the video. So I just decided to make the video. Make sure you guys like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you feel like supporting the channel. As always, if you want to leave a comment down below, it's one of the bigger helpers. But also searching for the channel name can be very helpful as well. But either way, we appreciate your support and you being here. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. And now I'm just going to stop talking and let you watch.